Hey everybody, welcome back to Word Balloon, the comic book conversation show. John Suntress here, very happy to welcome back Karl Kesel today. You know Karl, excellent inker, longtime collaborator with Tom Grumett, the co-creators of the Kon-El Superboy that came out of the end of Doomsday and the Reign of the Supermen. And certainly they've been an excellent team in back in the 90s when Image Comics had the imprint Guerrilla Comics, which, much like Image, featured a lot of known creators that had a bunch of new ideas that they wanted to do, creator-owned ideas. Grumett and Kesel created Section Zero, a very interesting team of superpowered people. It only lasted 3 issues in the initial run. They brought it back in 2017 through a Kickstarter, finished the story, had a lot of other bonus features, and now they're back with a new story about Section Zero. It's a prequel, Section Zero 1959. I'm a sucker for Cold War stories, as I tell Karl, and it's a great opportunity to talk to him about the project, but also to reach back and talk about collaborations with people like George Perez and also Mike Wieringo and other things, including a lost Jack Kirby project that might have slipped under the radar. I don't remember this, and it was great that Karl mentioned it, and I demanded that we talk about that because it's pretty cool. Karl actually got to finish this Jack Kirby project and help tie the thing together. I'll let him tell the story, but it's really interesting. I think you're going to enjoy it. So Karl Kesel talking about his new Kickstarter for Section Zero, 1959, and a lot more on today's Word Balloon. It's brought to you by Aftershock Comics, the industry's fastest-growing independent publishing company. You know, they're calling this year the year of reading dangerously. Now, you know about Aftershock. They've been a sponsor of Word Balloon for several months now, and they have been putting out some incredible books. Jimmy's Bastards, one of my personal favorites, from Garth Ennis. There's Animosity, of course, from Marguerite Bennett, A Walk Through Hell. Dark Arc from Cullen Bunn and Juan Doe. Baby Teeth from Donny Cates. They're going to push things even further this year with new releases and ongoing series that will continue to thrill and challenge both imaginations and sensibilities. They've been working with top writers and artists, some of the brightest new stars in the creative community as well. And they're going to have a couple new titles coming out this year. We've talked about Stronghold with Phil Hester last week. There's Oberon, a new supernatural series with Ryan Parrott. Tim Seeley doing Dark Red. Also Out of the Blue and Horde, just to name a few. They're going to cut across all genres and take readers far beyond their comfort zones. Now, in the weeks ahead, we'll be talking to more Aftershock creators about their current books, but you don't have to wait. You can check out full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. Word Balloon is also brought to you by the League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you, League, for your continuing support. There are new members. They got issued their domino masks and capes as part of the League of Word Balloon listeners. They're subscribers via Patreon. They help keep Word Balloon afloat. And as I recover from my recent illness and am unable to do some radio work, it's more than ever appreciated, League of Word Balloon listeners. Thank you very much for your support. If you'd like to subscribe to Word Balloon, Word Balloon is free. It'll always be free. But if you want to help the cause, you can go to patreon.com/wordballoon, or you can click on the Patreon ad at wordballoon.com. But thank you, League of Word Balloon listeners. All right, without further ado, let's get into our conversation now with Karl Kesel, talking about Section Zero, 1959, and some of his greatest hits over the years, both as a writer and as an artist. Karl Kesel on today's Word Balloon. Karl Kesel, welcome back to Word Balloon, and congratulations. We're getting a sequel, though really a prequel, on Section Zero.
Yes, we are. Thanks, John. Thanks for having me back on.
Absolutely, man. No, I'm really happy for you and Tom. I'm glad you guys are continuing the story. And I'm going back, and really for people who maybe are hearing this conversation first as opposed to our last conversation, because we did cover the first Kickstarter for the original Section Zero. It was a comic that was supposed to come out through Guerrilla Comics, correct?
Yeah, originally Section Zero was part of Guerrilla Comics, which was an Image imprint back in the year 2000. And we did get 3 issues out, and then personal matters on my end meant that I could no longer continue working on a creator-owned project simply because it wasn't paying my bills.
I understand, sure.
And so from then on, almost from the day we said we couldn't keep doing it, we tried to find a way to bring it back. And eventually, long story short is we 2 years ago, 2017, launched a Kickstarter, and we were successful, raised enough money so that we could pay our bills while we finished the first story arc. And we got that book out, and people seem very happy with it. We're very happy with it. And Section Zero is a book we would like to keep doing, more or less, say a graphic novel every year and a half, depending. I have to say it depends mostly on Tom's speed and schedule.
Okay.
So now we have a new Section Zero Kickstarter up, Section Zero 1959. It is set in, just guess what year it's set. Just guess. And there's a reason for this. I have to say, Tom and I were talking. We actually had a story all set up that we were going to do next. And somewhere in there, we realized we were both born in 1959. We were both turning, believe it or not, 60 this year.
Wow, sure.
And I cannot believe that. That math has got to be wrong.
I hear you, man.
But for some reason, we decided, it just tickled us to do a tribute to the sort of comics that were coming out when we were born, a certain kind of comic that was coming out when we were born, like Jack Kirby's Challengers, which is already a strong influence on the book. And I'm also a huge fan of those old Marvel monster comics with Fin Fang Foom and that sort of thing. And so we decided that would be our next project. We would kind of give ourselves a birthday present. And because Tom really wanted to do a story with the first team of Section Zero, which is a very Challengers-like team. And that's what we're doing.
So is it like, say, a Suicide Squad, where you go back to the Silver Age, and the Suicide Squad, also like Challengers of the Unknown, were plainclothes action heroes, but weren't superpowered? Or is this a different group of superpowered heroes? No,
these are four people with extraordinary abilities, but no super abilities.
Okay.
We have Everest Pike. He's a professional big game hunter, but now he hunts monsters. Section Zero was formed by a secret section of the United Nations Charter. That's where its name comes from. So the original team draws from the core members, some of the core members of the United Nations. So Everest Pike represents America. Representing Great Britain is Byrne, who's a demolitions expert. Representing France is Georges Sen, who is a world-renowned escape artist.
Cool.
And representing Russia is Sarina Yassari, who is an ace pilot and possibly a spy.
Well, perfect for 1959. Anytime the Cold War is involved, you have me at hello. So that's great. I'm 5 years and change behind you guys. Late 64, December 64. So I just turned 54. And no, I understand. Believe me, I have 49 hurt. But then, as I'm sure you'll feel the same way, my sister's like freaking out too. She's a little older, and 60's coming next year for her. I'm like, yeah, but is it going to be like 39 and 49 where you're like, oh no, oh my God. And then you wake up and it's like, hey, still me. All right, whatever. Yeah. It's fine.
Well, really, that is what it is. You wake up and it's just another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I will say for me, the psychological movement into 60, that was weird.
I hear you. And you're right. And I mean, it is one of those landmark numbers. The great thing is, honestly, Karl, and forgive me if this sounds condescending, but I'm really glad that you guys are doing things like Kickstarter and finding success with it, because you're part of that generation that, the pinnacle was working for DC or working for Marvel. I mean, that was the goal.
Oh, yeah.
And you're you're showing that there's a future beyond that. And certainly, I think this is a recurring conversation on Word Balloon with younger creators. Now, obviously, the paradigm has shifted, and it's make your name at Marvel and DC. But keep some creator-owned stuff in your back pocket, and when you've got your audience at one of the big two, have them follow you. I mean, John Hickman, Matt Fraction, Bendis. Right. I mean, to name a few off the top of my head, certainly Gail Simone, Kelly Sue DeConnick. So yeah, honestly, that's great, and obviously, Section Zero did well enough that you're able to do this. This prequel, if you will.
Yeah.
And tell me, are you the other thing that always interests me regarding Kickstarter is the community on Kickstarter. You've got your direct market fans and your Wednesday Warrior fans that certainly you can turn to and everything. But how are you finding new readers through the Kickstarter community?
Oh, I think so, definitely. And I'm finding new creators through the Kickstarter community too. There's a book that, quite honestly, I can't speak highly enough of, called White Ash, that's being put out by Charlie Stickney, and it's being drawn by Connor Hughes. And I think they sell 700 copies of it through Kickstarter, maybe more. I maybe am underestimating them by a bit. But the point is, it deserves to be read by a lot more people because it's a great, great book.
That's cool. That's great. Well, and again, the great thing about Kickstarter is proof of concept. You've put it out there. Do you like this? We want to make this. What do you guys think? Exactly. What do you women think? And I think that's wonderful. So what is there a nod in terms of, I mean, certainly you're doing things with a modern, storytelling way, but is there a nod to any classic Silver Age writers that you're trying to kind of infuse in the formula for this prequel?
Well, I mean, writer-wise, I would have to say it goes back to what was being done in specifically the early Marvel Monsters. I mean, if they go to the Kickstarter, which they can find by going to section01959.com, and those are the numbers 1959. It leads you right to the Kickstarter. But we have the first 3 pages of, basically an old Marvel monster story called I Hunt Monsters. It's Everest Pike's story before he joins the team. And the whole 8-page story is done. You can read it all if you back us, because in the first update we posted all 8 pages. But I mean, I have a huge love of those stories. I would like to think we captured the feel of it pretty well in that 8-page story. We do plan to do little 8-page stories for each of the 4 members before they join the team in the style of, those old Marvel monster things, or maybe something you might have seen in Strange Adventures over at DC.
Sure.
So, I mean, Larry Lieber scripted a lot of those, Stan Lee, whoever, I'm not sure even who scripted them, but we do try to capture some of that feel, some of those weird, plot twists, and he's a commie, at the end, that sort of thing, which I just really love. So, but I would also like to stress that not all, of the book is that way. Those 4 stories are kind of being used as chapter breaks. And the rest of the story, we will present it and tell it in a very modern way with bleeds. There's no bleeds on these retro stories we're doing. And we even tint down the pages so it looks like an old comic. But the rest of the book will be white paper, bright colors, bleeds, that sort of thing.
That's terrific. No, that's a lot of fun. And, God, it reminds me of the old 1963 project that Alan Moore and Bissett and a bunch of them did back then. That was kind of a nod to that stuff.
They just copied me a couple decades earlier. I remember loving those books too. I really did love those books. Yeah. And I think, to do this right, you got to have a love for that property, those properties, that time, that feel.
Oh, totally. And I remember in this, I'm assuming it was the early 70s, when they would reprint the monster stuff, and it was in like Where Monsters Dwell.
Yeah.
And God, man, I love that stuff. And it was fun. And really, I love the idea that, that period really exploring, atomic energy gone wrong, and that's creating these monsters or awakening these subterranean creatures and stuff, Godzilla and the like, and everything.
Exactly.
That's fun. So designing those monsters must have been as fun as creating the new heroes and everything.
Oh, definitely. And I have to say, Tom is doing a great job and having an absolute blast at it. So, Tom's just a natural for that sort of thing.
That's excellent.
Tom is able to channel things like that so easily. If you want a Kirby-esque feel, he can channel it. It's not that he sits down and copies. It's just like his mind plugs into it. And, the same with those old Marvel monsters. I said, this one's like a Kirby creature. And this one over here, this is more like from maybe one of the Ditko stories in Amazing Fantasy, and he just plugs right into that.
That's cool, man. No, I think it sounds like a great idea. And also, again, I do love the plainclothes adventurers going after super beings and stuff like that. I always think that was a really fun time. And I'm a huge original Challengers fan. And every time they try to reboot specifically the Challengers, I'm a little disappointed because it's like, oh man, there's so much charm with the original team. And, and that's, when Loeb did it, back in, I think it was the 90s when he did the
Yeah. I remember when Jeff Loeb did that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was terrific. And every now and then you do see the original challengers pop up, but it's like, oh, good, there they are. You know, and it's fun. And truly, again, also the early Fantastic Four, you know, adventures and stuff leaned into both. And it was a good mix of real people and heroes, you know, I mean, or powered beings and everything. But yeah, I think it's interesting. And again, at that period, the Cold War period, and everything that was going on from the space race to the exploration of atomic energy and radiation, everything. No, it's a fun time, and it's God, what a trivial way to put it.
Well, I've spent probably far too much time thinking about the challenges of the unknown. And more than once talking to DC about trying to do a take on them. I mean, Tom and I even had them show up in Superboy when we were doing the Hypertime story.
Yep, I remember.
And and there is a great charm to the challengers, which I have come to believe, and someone can prove me wrong, but I have come to believe it is very specific to that time period. And that to move the challengers out of that more innocent time period, they don't seem to quite click the same way. I don't know. This is my own personal opinion that they are really much more than other characters. They are a product of their time and belong in that time. And that's another reason why we're doing this as, Section 0, 1959. These sort of characters work best in that time period.
I hear you, man. And, it's funny. Matt Wagner and I talked about that years ago. And, okay. So you're in good company as far as that goes. Because he even brought up like Zorro. Every time they try to put Zorro on a motorcycle instead of on a horse, and in 1800s and everything, it's just it doesn't quite work. And certainly, even you could say that about the original versions of Superman and Batman, for that matter. And I mean, God, Tom DeHaven, when he wrote that Superman novel.
Yeah, I think they should make a movie out of that book. That should be the next Superman movie.
It would be fun to see that, and I wonder, or at the very least, to get an animated feature of 1938 Superman.
Yeah, that, I mean, very Fleischer-esque. It would be great.
Absolutely, man. And that's true, too. I mean, we do have like a good dozen or whatever of those. They're out there for people to see and enjoy as well. But yeah, in that same way that the animated series kind of, leaned into that Fleischer-esque, the Batman series and everything. But yeah, it would be great. But yeah, no, I don't blame you, because again, it fits that period. And, there's just a great element too of, spies and everything. And, so it's funny because, the original Section 0, you can't help but think of things like the X-Men and some of the other modern, teams and everything. And this does, as you say, it's a good kind of callback to those adventure teams like the original Task Force X, as they called the Suicide Squad. And also, what was the Thunder Agents? Didn't they had a bunch of plainclothes guys working with them?
Yeah,
as well.
and I think those were Thunder agents. They just weren't superpowered Thunder agents.
I guess you're right. Absolutely, man. So no, that's awesome, man. Very, very cool. Are you offering any variant cover or sketch perks from guest artists or anything, or also in the book itself?
I'm sorry. Well, yeah. I mean, we got a whole bunch of things lined up. Tom is doing, as one of the reward levels, Tom and I are doing sketches.
Cool. That
people can, bid on, and we've gotten, I don't know, something like 84 sketches we're doing so far. So that's really great. And we also have some friends that are going to be doing pinups. And actually, I'm glad you brought up the pinups. These will be in the book. But I've become really involved in the Kickstarter community and the creator-owned community, and I really wanted to do something to kind of give back to that. So the deal I've made with all these people are draw a pinup of one of your creator-owned characters with one of the Section 0 characters. I'll give you a page in the book, and I'll write a short paragraph about why your stuff is so cool, and I wouldn't be talking to these people if I didn't think their stuff was cool. And list any web addresses you might want for people to find out more about your stuff. And so we have Mike Allred, who's agreed to do a pinup for us.
Cool.
Steve Rude is going to do a pinup for us.
That's great.
Ron Randall is doing a pinup for us.
Excellent.
Lila Del Duca is going to do a pinup for us.
Excellent.
And and Connor Hughes from White Ash, which I talked about earlier, he's doing a pinup for us. I mean, these are people, and Craig Rousseau. I don't want to forget Craig because he's such a good friend. He's doing a pin. All of these people are doing pinups for us, and I'm sure I just forgot one or two off the top of my head, and I'm very sorry about that. But once again, I really see this as a way to support other people who are trying desperately to make a living doing stuff they love, not just Wolverine and Spider-Man, which I love too.
Sure.
But when it comes to characters that are really your babies, that's really the best way to describe it.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, and again, like you said, and if we're counting for White Ash only having 700 wins, but that's the thing; it's going directly to the creators, and
right.
This is truly it's been an amazing 10+ years of Kickstarter that has provided this kind of platform for creators to make their stuff and cut out the middlemen and women and just do their thing and go directly to the audience. And that's awesome, man. Do you sell Section Zero at conventions?
Well, I've only been to one convention since we got the book out, but we did sell it there, and I have conventions lined up for this year, and I plan to sell it there too.
Excellent.
And same with the upcoming book, the Section Zero 1959. We'll be taking that with us to conventions, and we do have a website. We have Panic Button Press, and panicbuttonpress.com sells the book too. And, at this point, we're not making a living off of that. The big chunk of cash comes from the Kickstarter.
Sure.
And then we do have, at least right now, for the first Section Zero book, a deal with Image. They're going to put that book out as a 6-issue miniseries.
Excellent.
And, we would not have been able to do that if we hadn't been able to pay our bills through that first Kickstarter because, at least for us, Image is not, willing to give us much of a page rate up front. Not enough to pay our bills, certainly.
Sure. Well, and also go ahead. I'm sorry, Carl.
I was just going to say, so we're hoping, our plan is Kickstarter pays our bills, then we can hand off the book to Image, and they will grow our audience. They will get us into comic shops. They will get us on Comixology. They will expose Section Zero to more people so that hopefully as the steam rolls ahead, more people then will pick up the Kickstarter. And, we hope one feeds the other is what it comes down to.
Absolutely, man. And also a lot of times I'll be at conventions and talking to somebody at a table, and they'll have their Kickstarter project already done. They're selling it, and you're like, "Oh man, I would have supported this."
Exactly.
And and then sometimes it's a short window, and people just there's a lot of noise out there. Sometimes it's hard to get your message out there to everybody. So sure, absolutely, man. And I'm always happy to hear that the plan is okay after we satisfy the Kickstarter that we've got to deal with Publisher X. And we're putting it out, and it's great that you're doing it through Image. That's one, that's a win as well. So very, very cool. When is that coming out?
I'm not up on when the preview stuff comes out, but I believe it was in the latest previews, and it will be in shops the first week of April. The first issue of a 6-issue miniseries.
Oh, that's great. Then it likely is in this month's previews, February's previews. That's fantastic, man. Nice going. I got to be honest, man, I haven't been picking up previews like I did in my Wednesday Warrior days. So sometimes I'm kind of slow and
I'm way behind too.
So no, that's excellent, man. That's really, really cool. So yeah, you told me about all the cast and everything for 1959. Are there allusions to the modern team? As far as any cameos or anything?
Very, very interesting you should ask that because I do think, for older fans, they will see some connections between characters that have appeared before and things mentioned before will be further explained in this book. So yeah, it isn't just like a total throwback. It stands on its own, obviously.
Sure.
But if you understand the Section Zero mythos, you will see how dots are being connected. And, so there's something for our longtime fans and something for new fans, too.
That's excellent, man. Very, very cool. Beautiful. Yeah. Exciting.
And we're very excited about it.
So are you, do you ink over Tom at all, or is Tom doing everything as far as art goes?
No, I still ink Tom's pencils. He does the penciling, and I'm doing the writing and inking.
Yeah.
And, Tom and I we're a well-oiled machine at this point. We understand each other like an old married couple, really. So it's always a joy to work with Tom. He always hands in exactly what I was hoping for, and usually more. It's like everything I wanted and 10% more. So I'm never disappointed. I mean, we're doing some, faux old Marvel Monster covers for these chapter breaks. And, I get a cover from him and I go, my God, Kirby could have drawn that on Strange Tales, 97. That could have been the cover,
Outstanding.
It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
That's excellent, man. Well, you guys are hilarious on your video, and I certainly remember it from the first Kickstarter as well, if people go to the Kickstarter page. And you got a lot of good guest creators making comments about Section Zero. So, people will enjoy that. What was the first thing you guys did together, you and Tom?
Well, it would have been, the first official thing we did together was Adventures of Superman 501 with the introduction of Superboy. There was, 4 pages in issue 500 we worked on together.
Okay, sure. Now, tell me.
But Tom is that guy who for years editors kept saying to me, hey, I got this guy I think you'd be really good inking, Tom Grumett. Mark Waid, when he was editing Secret Origins, he pulled me aside one day, showed me Tom's art for Animal Man's Secret Origin, and he goes, oh, I think it'd be great on him. And I was very busy at the time and I couldn't do it. And then, just like weeks later, I was at the Marvel offices, and an editor up there named Kurt Busick goes, Karl, there's this guy I think you'd be perfect on. And it was Tom Grumett, who was doing some work for Kurt at the time.
Excellent.
And both times I was not available, but it was like we were fated to be together. And eventually Carlin is the guy who really got us to work together, and no one's really been able to pry us apart for long since.
Let's talk about Reign of the Supermen for a second, because it's an iconic story. Obviously, they just animated it as well. I haven't watched the second part yet to kind of see how they do everybody.
I have not seen either of them, but I know they're out there, yeah.
Yeah. Hey, can I ask, and forgive me if this is too personal and stuff, but do you get a little kickback because of creating Kon-El from Young Justice or things like Reign of the Supermen?
Not yet. That's all I can say. Is I've heard that Tom and I might be compensated in some way, but as far as I know, I certainly have not gotten anything.
Okay, I certainly hope so. And that's truly, I'm sure I speak for a lot of fans that when they do touch on characters that, favorite creators have made, that it's like, hey, I hope these guys are, it was a long time where we weren't hearing that, and it was very disappointing. And now, thankfully, it seems like they are making efforts to compensate creators for coming up with the ideas. And that's what I wanted to ask regarding Reign of the Supermen. When you had the meetings with Carlin and stuff, tell me about that. Like, what was it? Creating these 4 different Supermen, in air quotes, and everything that were going to be different. You had the armored Superman that John Bogdanove and Weezy Simonson created, and you had the Kryptonian, of course, and the cyborg Superman, and then of course Kon-El. Yeah. So yeah, tell me, what were you handed, and tell me about creating Kon-El.
Well, hang on, I'm gonna have to cough. Hang on.
Sure.
Sorry.
No problem, man.
Okay, so that was my very first Superman summit, and Carlin contacted all the writers and artists and was soliciting ideas on how to bring back Superman, and I was not alone in coming up with the idea that maybe we would have 4 different Supermen. I thought of that idea, and I thought it was pretty outrageous. And then when I actually got to the summit, Carlin said, we're going to do 4 different Supermen. And like I said, I'm not trying to take credit for that. I think it was there's something in the zeitgeist where that all that should be the way to go. But since I'd already actually thought of that, I had written up an idea of what could possibly be in the 4 books, just as a starting point. And I thought Man of Steel, well, I guess that could be a robot, I thought, because I was trying to figure ways that you could reflect the books.
Sure.
And I thought Action Comics probably should be like Superman when he first showed up, able to leap a quarter of a mile and, really a real primal Superman. And I actually thought Superman, well, that must be the real Superman. The book's called Superman. and then I thought, well, I'm writing Adventures of Superman. What the hell could be in that book? Who could show up there? But honestly, I was stumped. I'd actually come up with ideas for the other books, but not for Adventures of Superman. and then I remembered the old classic line, The Adventures of Superman when he was a boy. And I thought, Superboy, great, there we go. And, I wrote that down, and we all went in to the meeting, and, Carlin just said, let's start thinking of Superman. And we just started throwing out ideas. And I will say, being the new kid in the room, I was a little hesitant. And it was actually Dennis Janke, inker on Man of Steel, who said, Superboy. And they wrote it down on the board. And I thought, oh, my God, someone else said Superboy, and that's the one I wanted to do. And so when we started to divvy them up after we had named a dozen or more different versions, I did speak up and I said I would really like to do Superboy. And Wheezy, to her credit, said that was okay. Because, let's face it, by courtesy, professional courtesy meant that the Man of Steel book had first dibs on Superboy. And Wheezy is the one who said, no, you guys can do it. You guys can do it. She was, she was a queen.
She's the best, honestly. God, yeah. They're amazing, both Walter and Louise. They're incredible, and I always love. As you know, and maybe younger listeners don't know, God, from her days at Warren Publishing when she was doing horror and hiring all these great guys and women, or I should say, actually, who am I kidding? Back then, it was mostly men. It probably was exclusively men. But no, man. That's the thing. Literally, almost 30 years ago, Wheezy's a force, and yeah, you always have to give it up to Wheezy for her writing and stuff like that. She's an incredible writer and a really smart creator. Yeah, she is. And I owe most of my career to those 3 or 4 words she said at that point. That's cool.
So that's how Superboy ended up in our book. And pretty much Tom sat down, instantly drew the character that you see today. And the only difference was Tom gave him kind of a more punk-looking haircut at the time.
Funny, because I was going to ask. Yes, he has that sidewall haircut that obviously was of the time and everything in the 90s. And it's so funny, I'm a boxing guy. And really, it's a Jack Dempsey haircut if you go back to the 20s and stuff like that. Very similar.
Yeah, but Tom's version was even more, more punk, more spiky, more like a Robin haircut at the time.
Funny.
And Carlin is the one who said, give him the spit curl. And he's the editor, and
sure.
Carl, he's a smart man. So and that's how Superboy came to be, really, right there. Bam.
That's awesome, man. Okay, let's take a break and get into our sponsor. This portion of Word Balloon brought to you by Aftershock Comics, the industry's fastest-growing independent publishing company, promoting both new and established comic audiences to read dangerously. They're claiming 2019 as the year of reading dangerously. As a publisher of many of the most talked-about independent titles of the past few years, things like Marguerite Bennett's Animosity, Garth Ennis' A Walk Through Hell, Dark Arc from Cullen Bunn and Juan Doe, and, of course, Donny Cates and Baby Teeth, Aftershock is pushing the envelope even further this year with new releases and ongoing series that continue to thrill, chill, and challenge both imaginations and sensibilities. Aftershock is working with top writers and artists and some of the brightest new stars in the creative community. Some of the new titles that are coming out this year, things like Stronghold with Phil Hester and Ryan Kelly, Oberon, a new supernatural series featuring Ryan Parrott, Dark Red, a vampire living in rural America from Tim Seeley, and things like Out of the Blue and Horde. They're going to cut across all genres to take readers far beyond the comfort zones. Now, in the weeks ahead, we'll be talking to more Aftershock creators about their books, but you don't have to wait. Go to their website. You'll find full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop at AftershockComics.com. All right, let's get back into our conversation now on Word Balloon. I do like the progression of Kon-El, and even in the Young Justice cartoon, that Superman is slightly embarrassed by his existence. And, it's kind of – and really I look forward to what Bendis is doing now with
I am too.
with Superman's actual son, John Kent, and how he and Kon-El are going to likely interact in the future and everything.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be interesting. Have you had a chance to watch? Do you get DC Universe? Do you watch any of that stuff?
No, but I did see the end of the Titans season with someone who seems very Superboy-like walking around. I did see that clip online.
And
so,
also, well, I was going to ask too because they covered Hawk and Dove, and of course you had that Hawk and Dove miniseries as well.
Right. Yeah, no. And once again, I haven't seen the series, but everyone seems to really like the Hawk and Dove episodes a lot. So, and I think the casting of those characters seemed perfect from what I could tell.
Oh God, yeah, it really was. It was honestly that and the Doom Patrol, I think, were really pleasant surprises. And the Titans TV show, especially now, I think this might be one of the first times I've had a chance to talk about the whole thing. It was good. It was fine. It was certainly different from the comic book, but that's okay. It's, in that same way that Arrow is different from the Ollie that we've known and loved in the comics for so long.
Sure, sure.
But it's still a fun show, and it's still an interesting show. So yeah. I'm okay with the differences. But Hawk and Dove were very just modern enough to make sense for today's audience, but absolutely reflecting the progression of Hawk and Dove, even from Hank and Don. I mean, they had kind of an origin episode as well.
Did they?
It was great. It really was great. I was really blown away of how good that was as well.
Do they still use the magic words to change?
No, that's awesome. What were the magic words? I totally forgot about that.
Well, no, they would say their names, Hawk and Dove, and change. And that would only work if they were in an area in the presence of danger. So if like they were like in an ice cream stand and nothing bad was going on, they could say Hawk and Dove all day and nothing would happen. But if someone drove up with a gun to rob the place, then they would say Hawk and Dove and they would transform.
That's hilarious. I totally forgot that. No, they're plainclothes heroes,
right.
And so they are vulnerable, and it's great. No, and really, God, Hank Hall, good Lord, great character, and Minka Kelly did a great job as well with I think it's Minka Kelly playing Dove.
Yes.
But it's terrific. Seriously, I was just like, God, this is great, and Doom Patrol as well. Holy cow!
I've heard the trailer for the Doom Patrol series is killer.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Pretty cool stuff. So it's kind of interesting and everything. I haven't had a chance to watch the half of season 3 of Young Justice that they've posted on DC Universe. I'm gonna have to do that. But no, back to Kon-El and everything. Yeah, I hope someday you get a chance to come back to the character.
Well, you never know what's going to be around the corner. I have to say I've been very pleased with, generally how the character's been treated since Tom and I moved on from him. I thought Jeff Johns did amazing things with Kon-El in Titans back in the day.
Yes.
And, things that, quite honestly, I wish we had done. I really liked bringing in the whole Luthor angle. I thought that was brilliant. To see the character have a kind of mini resurgence right now, that's very gratifying. It is nice to know that that you've left some sort of mark. It's very gratifying, and so with Kon-El and to a lesser degree Hawk and Dove, I'm very pleased to have contributed some small amount to this big history of comics here.
I hear you, man. No, it's cool stuff. I'm pretty sure we talked last time about Tana Moon, who's always been my favorite of the Superboy characters. From
I'm sure we did, yeah. I don't know if she's going to come back. It'll be interesting to see what Bendis does. Yeah,
absolutely, man. I'm talking to him actually as we're recording this week, so I imagine our conversation will come up. So that's
well. I'm sure Brian's got great ideas, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Unlike some creators out there, Bendis always seems to come from a place of respect and love, and I appreciate that about his work tremendously.
Sure. So leading up to writing the Superboy thing, what other things had you written before getting that shot?
Well, Hawk and Dove. I've been co-writing
that's right.
With my first wife, Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been given, little tiny things here and there. I actually solo wrote a Newsboy Legion story in Secret Origins that Mark Waid was editing at the time.
Awesome.
He gave me my first solo writing gig, and based on that, and oh yeah, that's right. I also had written and penciled and inked 3 Newsboy Legion backups in Adventures of Superman when Jerry Ordway was doing the lead, because he really couldn't quite do a whole issue a month. And so they thought if they put in some backups, then he could he could be the majority of every issue. And it turned out people would much rather see Jerry in the whole issue and then him miss every 4th or 5th issue than have me do Newsboy Legion backups. But anyways, Carlin was exposed to my writing there and obviously seemed to think I had something worth looking at. So that was, once again, I'd have no career without that man. That's for sure.
That's awesome, man. Have you ever thought about, I know you did that, and now I'm conflating them. I was going to say that Captain America newspaper strip, but that wasn't a newspaper strip, and I'm misremembering that along with the old flash drive animation Captain America mini, stuff that was coming out at the early 2000s or late 90s.
Yeah, what I did had no flash drive animation, none whatsoever. I was doing a straight up old adventure comic strip.
Yeah,
and that is one of the few jobs that I have written, penciled, and inked myself. And I would like to think by the end of it, I was a pretty good penciler there. At first, there's a lot of problems with the art, but it gets better, as it always does when you practice. But I still, that Captain America comic strip is still one of the things I'm most proud of, because first of all, I'm a huge fan of the old comic strips.
Sure.
Terry and the Pirates and Johnny Hazard and
yes,
Dick Tracy. Actually right now, I'm just wallowing my way through the 1960s Dick Tracy with Moon Maid, and these are just
that's great. Yes, that's all the lunar stuff. Yes, that's fantastic, and all the gadgets.
It was like was Chester Gould like taking LSD at the time? What it was like, what was going on in his mind? But anyways, but I love old adventure comic strips. There's something about the pacing of them. Basically 4 panels with this some sort of cliffhanger, which adds a real heightened reality to what's going on, and I just love that format so much. I mean, there's been many times in my life I wished I had been born 50 years earlier, so instead of doing comic books, I'd be doing comic strips. But on the other hand, I really can't complain about how my life's turned out. So
I hear you.
But yeah, that Captain America newspaper comic strip, which theoretically was from the 1940s, that's a project I'm very proud of and very happy with the way it came out.
I enjoyed it too, and it's funny. I know we talked about it on our last conversation. It's excellent, and now I forget. Did they ever collect it? Is there a trade out there? There
is a trade out there, and it's not your normal. This isn't your normal project at any point in its history, because the trade paperback is like a square book, because they take each day's quote unquote daily, and I had structured them so they could be split in the middle. Like Wash Tubbs and Captain Easy dailies were always structured so they could be stacked by a newspaper. So that's what Marvel did, is when they printed this book, they gave each daily its own page and stacked it, and it makes the book square. But it's out there, and
that's awesome.
You can get it on Amazon. I know I've seen it there.
That's fantastic. I wondered if two things. One, and especially as you talk about it, and your love for, I'm with you on the adventure comic strips. My bottom bookshelf is loaded with coffee table book reprints of all the IDW stuff of Rip Kirby and Secret Agent Corrigan and Big Ben Bolt from I forget the publisher. I want to say Hermes. I think Hermes Press.
It could be. It could be.
And Johnny Hazard, of course, the great Frank Robbins, who did wonderful.
That stuff is killer.
Yes. Well, that's and that's always like the secret handshake with creators is, do you like Frank Robbins? Oh, I love Frank Robbins, and I was the same way, man. I mean, again, being just about 5 years younger than you, I mean, I was reading like The Invaders, and I'm like, I don't know why I like this. It's so different. It's such a non-Marvel House style, and yet I loved the way it looked, and then to discover Frank Robbins, Johnny Hazard, and stuff, and it's like, oh my God, this is great stuff.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
So no, I'm with you. So I wondered, did you do anything with Wednesday's Comics or no?
No, I had nothing to do with that.
Bummer.
Which is too bad. But, look, they got amazingly talented people to do that stuff.
Oh, sure.
So they certainly didn't need me.
No, I understand. But again, you already had done it with Captain America, and it would have been cool to, have another crack at that kind of storytelling.
Right. So, well, someday maybe. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll do a Section 0 comic strip. That could be fun, too.
And it might be perfect for the 59 group. That would be excellent, man.
Well, that sort of thing would be perfect for the 1959 group, yeah.
That's excellent. And also, I was wondering, working with Carlin and everything, Carlin's now, off in animation and stuff. Have you done any animation scripting?
No, I really haven't. For better or worse, I'm a comic guy. And,
okay.
I love comics. I love the medium of comics. And as long as people are going to let me do it, I'm going to keep doing it.
Totally understand, man. No, I hear you. Let's, if you don't mind, I'm curious about some of the other things you worked, and the other artists that you've worked on as well.
Sure.
George Perez announced that he's retiring, and we all wish him well, and congratulations on a wonderful career. And you had an opportunity to ink George on the history of the DC Universe, which was a very big prestige format project back in the day, and coming right off of Crisis, resetting the universe and kind of telling the full story of the DC Universe. So, tell me about what it was like working with George.
Well, working with George was a pleasure. George is such a gentleman and such a gentle man, and he's full of joy, and you can see it in his work. And he was very generous and very giving. And really, I'd been inking Tales of the Legion at the time. DC asked me if I wanted to ink History of the DC Universe, and so it was a little bit of a step up, let me tell you. But it was there was a lot of great support, and it was very exciting. And Richard Bruning, who was the art director at the time, he was saying when George does the World War II spread, maybe try to give it a little bit of a Kubert spin. He was very, very supportive about, bringing something to what George was doing. And quite honestly, you just don't have to bring very much to what George is doing. He's got it all there. And that was a great project to be involved with. And people may not know this, but I did ink George very recently, because George did a pinup for the first Section 0 book. And he penciled it, and, that was 2 years ago. So, within 2 years of retiring, he penciled this, he was very generous, penciled I had approached a number of people and asked them to draw one character in Section 0 for a pinup. Mm-hmm. And George goes, could I do the whole team?
Of course.
Of course, George would say that. Of course. And that's what he did. He drew the entire team and did a great job. And I am eternally grateful to his generosity and his kindness.
That's signature George Perez, man. That's wonderful. God, I remember well before the miniseries came out of JLA and Avengers when George, did those initial drawings. And I can't remember if they were in Amazing Heroes, that magazine, or wherever. And you're just like, oh, look at that. Oh, man. And then, of course, all the events that George has drawn with multiple heroes in them and stuff. Yeah, that's amazing. And man, there you go. There's a great little, kind of stamp of approval to have George Perez draw your team. That's wonderful, man.
I know. It was a great honor. A great honor.
That's hilarious. And how about working with John Byrne?
Well, I enjoyed working with John Byrne tremendously. I really, him on Legends and him on Superman. There's only been probably, other than working with Tom Grumett and working with Mike Ringo. John Byrne was probably my favorite person to work with, other than Tom and Ringo.
That's interesting, and there's three really different art styles there: Perez, Mike, and Byrne. So tell me about Mike. Honestly, and I always want to bring it up anytime somebody mentions Mike and everything. He was an incredible help to me at the beginning of Word Balloon, and actually, this is my 14th year.
Oh, my God.
And I know. And I think back to – oh, thanks, man. And I think back to 2005 and when I first was doing Word Balloon, and Mike was one of the first creators to contact me and say, hey, I can't get that Jeff Parker interview to download. Can you help me? And I was just like, would you like to come on? And he goes, oh, yeah, sure. And he was great. And I'm like, hey, man, if you don't mind, I go, give me your critical ear. What am I doing right? What am I doing wrong? So he was incredibly generous, and always when I'd see him at conventions and stuff, just a good guy. And I would, occasionally just instant message or email him and stuff. And yeah, I love Mike. He was incredibly kind to me. So, but yeah, that's different styles. So yeah, like different muscles for different artists like that.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I really, as an inker, I really try to figure out what the artist is trying to say and try to figure out how to say that in ink. I mean, and it's almost kind of zen, but it's true. I have to say this is absolutely true. I actually try to think what is the artist trying to draw here, much more than actually what he did draw. Okay, he's trying to draw water, so he wants a soft line. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Okay, he's drawing rock. I got to give it even a harder edge than that pencil line is giving it, because I want it to look rock-like. I actually try to enhance what the penciler is doing. I try to actually think of what they were trying to draw even more than what they did draw. And that can mean you can really screw up if you intuit things wrong.
Sure.
But during my career, I've been lucky enough to hit it right more often than I've hit it wrong, I guess. And so, it's also just a lot of fun to be able to work with different styles. And, the way Mike Wieringo has this very simple style, but it was deceptively simple, because when you saw his pencils, I would see the subtle variation in line weight, and I'd go, oh my God, he knows there's a muscle mass right there, and it's just a little muscle mass, but Mike knows it's there, and he's indicating it in this extremely subtle way, that sort of thing. So it's a joy to work with different styles like that. It keeps you fresh, and it's like having an art class every day, quite honestly, with masters. When you're working with John Byrne, when you're working with Tom Grumett, when you're working with Mike Wieringo, when you're working with George Perez, few times I think Stuart Immonen.
I was going to ask about Stuart. Yes, indeed. Go on.
You learn something every time you work with these people.
That's awesome, man. With Mike, was it on Superman that you were inking him?
No, on Fantastic Four, and after
with him and Mark,
the Mark Waid run, yeah.
Oh, that's great, man! God damn, seriously, man, one of the great runs. And I had the opportunity to talk to Mike and Mark about it and stuff. So it's great to talk to you about it as well. Jesus, man, seriously, that run is so sweet and kind of perfect and stuff. And good Lord, when they go to heaven to get back.
Yeah. It's really the pinnacle of the whole run as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Jesus, yeah, just great ideas, and it's so good. And yeah, thank God. Did you come back with them when they got the chance to come back? Oh, terrific.
Yeah, so we were on it, and then we kind of all left, and then we all kind of came back, and then we kind of all moved over to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Although I believe Mark might not have come. I can't remember if he wrote that first issue or not. But Mike and I moved over there.
That's
to,
cool.
Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
That's cool. And then certainly. And how much Spider-Man did you do with Mike? Was that it?
Oh, not very much. It was like 8 or 9 issues. Mike was on it for longer than I was, because this weird job came up through Marvel that I actually turned down a few times, but Brevoort talked me into doing it. So to do it, I had to leave the Friendly Neighborhood book. So, but in many ways that was a big mistake. Not because of the project I moved over to, although no one will have ever heard of it, but because I really do enjoy working with Mike, and did enjoy working with Mike. And
do you want to reveal what the project was?
Well, it was this weird project called it was put together by Kirby's daughter, Lisa Kirby, and it was the Intergalactic Bounty Hunters was the name of it.
Wow, and I do not remember this at all. This is very interesting.
Well, the thing was, Jack had drawn a number of pages, not necessarily for this project, but Lisa had assembled these pages along with some other people. Mike Thibodeau was involved.
Okay.
And they had fleshed out the story and drawn up the rest of the story. And basically, I was brought in to, according to Tom, my job was to be refinisher, which is to kind of give a a more cohesive and
Yeah.
professional sheen to the whole project.
Okay.
And it kind of grew out of control. And I believe you can still find this book on on Amazon. I believe the Intergalactic Bounty Hunter book is still available there, but I am not mentioned as someone contributing to the book at all.
I see. Okay. How and this is interesting. Now we've had an interesting topic that I want to hear more about. When did Kirby make those drawings? Was it near the end of when he was drawing? And I mean this with the greatest respect, but his art did kind of devolve is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? I mean, look at his stuff obviously in his prime, and you compare it to things like, which I still love, things like Superpowers, the Justice League toy tie-in that he did,
right.
and the Hunger Dogs as well. And there just was, again. I mean, it happens, as you and I know. Let us challenge our 20-year-old selves to a 50-yard dash. And I'm the first person to yell at a podcaster or a blogger that is like, oh, gee, Creator X, man, he sure doesn't draw the way he used to. And it's like, well, Creator X is 70+ years old. Cut him some slack, man.
Yeah, exactly.
So when was that period of these pages?
It's hard for me to say for sure, but I'm sure it was from later in his career.
Okay.
They were still very powerful pages. But yeah, I mean, yeah, they were from later in his career.
Okay. And again, I as a comic history fan, I'm happy to look at that stuff as much as I am, Kirby at his absolute best with the right inker and Mike Thibodeau. Thibodeau. Yeah, I believe Wasn't he a Kirby inker as well?
Yes, he was right towards the end of. Oh, geez, what was it? Either the Pacific Comics stuff or did he? No, he did not ink Commandy at all. That was D. Bruce Berry.
Okay,
so, but he
did. There's a name. Yes.
Yeah. He did ink some Kirby stuff. It might have been at Pacific Comics. Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember for sure myself.
Because honestly, the same thing goes for Gene Colan or Tony DeZuniga. And I think in both cases, again, as they got older, their style changed, and it's okay. I mean, what can you do? It's it's a man and his pencil. So, but yeah, from a comic history standpoint, it is interesting to look at that stuff as well. So that's cool. That's very, very interesting. Wow. So again, I understand, and if it didn't make the splash that I'm sure everybody had hoped that it would make, but pretty cool that you got to get on anything like that. Did you ever worked on any other classic artists like that?
Well, I mean, you mentioned Gene Colan, and he actually drew 2 issues of Daredevil that I wrote, which was a huge thrill.
That's fantastic.
And I actually got to ink one of his covers. He drew a number of Daredevil covers, and I begged to ink one of them. And that again was another high point for me. I just have such a childhood fondness and for a lot of these creators, and let's face it, there's a reason they're really good at what they do.
Absolutely.
But I also had a chance to ink an 8-page Hulk story penciled by Herb Trimpe.
Fantastic.
You don't get a chance like that very often, and I missed. Many years ago, I missed a chance to work with Don Heck, and I kick myself about that to this day.
Oh man, I understand. Jeez.
But I have begged Sal Buscema to pencil something so I could ink it, and Sal is like, penciling's too hard. I don't want to pencil anymore.
And also, now is this right? Oh, I'm sorry. Please, if there's more.
No, there was nothing more to that story. There really wasn't.
Okay, because I was going to say, looking at your Wikipedia page, it seems like Dick Giordano kind of helped you improve your inking.
Yeah, that was a great learning moment in my history. To have Dick go over my inking, and at that point, it was like being sent to the principal's office. Karen Berger said, sit down with Dick, and he's going to talk to you about your inking. And my inking was not bad, but I know Karen knew my inking could be better. And that's one of the hallmarks of a great editor. A great editor makes you do better work than you thought you could do. And Karen got better work out of me than I thought I could do. And I have been appreciative of that for the rest of my career.
That's fantastic. And it doesn't surprise me because, I always love talking to editors like Karen, and Will Dennis is another guy like that. I think that has that ability. But the editors that really, bring out the best of people and just have that extra eye. And I assume Mark was like that too, Wade, when he was an editor.
Oh, yeah, Mark, very much so. I mean, I think Tom Brevoort is another editor like that.
Yes.
I think Mike Carlin, was an editor like that.
Sure.
These are all people who, you look at the people who worked under them, and it's some of the best work they did in their whole career.
Outstanding, man. That's really, really cool. So you mentioned you are going to be going to some conventions this year. Where are you going to be?
Well, I'm going to be at Heroes Con, so I'm looking forward to that.
Cool.
And there is a convention in Minneapolis called MSP Spring Show. I can't remember exactly if that's the name of it, but Dan Jurgens says it's a great little show, so I'm going to go.
That's cool.
And other than that, I do have a convention in Spain that I'll be at in July.
Outstanding. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So that's pretty much my convention schedule, and then Rose City here in Portland, Oregon at the end of summer. That's pretty much my whole convention schedule for the year.
Very cool. Who, obviously Portland has a huge comics community. Who are your cartoonist buddies out there?
Well, Ron Randall and I are old friends from the Joe Kubert school days.
Cool.
And now he's doing a lot of kickstarting too for his book Trekker. And Ron and I are like each other's brain bank on that. We each try different things and go, well, this worked really well for me, and I read that this might work really well, And so we get together every few weeks or at least once a month and just kind of compare Kickstarter notes and each watch each other's to see what works and what doesn't. And it's just very exciting. But Ron and I are he's probably my closest comics buddy here. I am a member of Helioscope Studios, so that includes some really great people too, like Steve Lieber, Jeff Parker.
Yes.
Paul Tobin, Colleen Coover. There's no way I can list them all. Dylan
That's
Kunis. Awesome. It's an astounding array of talent. Yeah.
I assume, do you guys have like a workplace that you all can be at and everything? Is it a big, giant kind of bullpen room, or how does it work?
Yeah, there's a studio space that is, I guess the equivalent of 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 offices that are all interconnected. And there's some people like Steve Lieber who go in almost every day. And then I'm actually at this point kind of a floater. So I go in very rarely. And most of that is because I have 2 small children at home. Sure. And it's better to be able to, stop work at 5:00 and be able to start cooking dinner at 5:01. and I can do that when I can walk from one room to the next. And, but yeah, so they've got a space downtown, and it's, like I said, it's a really great place and filled with really great people.
Absolutely. Well, the 4 you mentioned in particular and everything, no, they're good acquaintances of mine as well. And I love when they come on, and, they're a lot of fun. They're good people. So that's excellent, man. So Section 1959 is the new Kickstarter, and taking up most of your time. Is there any other projects that you've got on the docket right now?
Well, no. Right now, I'm focusing on kickstarting Section 0, and in my back pocket, David Hahn and I have a project called Impossible Jones that we actually did try to kickstart last October, and it wasn't working out, so I canceled it. But we're going to be probably kickstarting that in 3 or 4 months as a graphic novel. Last time we tried to kickstart it as a floppy, and that just, asking people $10 for a floppy is really too much, if you ask me.
I understand. No, I agree, and I think, again, that's one of the decisions that you do have to make when doing a Kickstarter and stuff, graphic novel versus floppy. So that's good. No, I think that's smart. That's excellent, man. Well, very exciting. Section 0, 1959. Look for it on Kickstarter. How many days left in the campaign?
A little over 2 weeks at this point. So it ends on March 14th.
Oh, wonderful.
So I would appreciate everyone checking it out. That's what they really should do. Everyone should check this out.
Very, very cool, man. Well, this will be out within hours of our conversation.
Oh, my, really? Thank you.
I want to give you, a chance to get the word out and everything, and let my listeners know about it. And yeah, man, no, the first one was fun, and I love the idea of the second one. And again, you're tapping that great Silver Age era of plainclothes heroes going up against the unbelievable. So it sounds really cool, man. And yeah, you and Tom are excellent creators, and I can't help but recommend this because, I've enjoyed your quality work for decades, and it's great to see you doing something new and something for yourselves. So congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Glad I had the chance to welcome Karl back to Word Balloon. I look forward to our next conversation. And again, I think you ought to check out Section 0, 1959. Go to the Kickstarter page there, and you will check out the video. He and Tom Grumett, they got a pretty cool story here. Thanks again for listening to Word Balloon today. Again, brought to you by Aftershock Comics. This year, 2019, is the year of reading dangerously with Aftershock Comics. Check it out. There are tremendous books. Some of your favorite writers and artists are just cranking out excellent stories that aren't part of the norm. They're a little more personal as far as creator-owned ideas, and they've been a lot of fun to explore. They've got top-notch talent, people like Donnie Cates, Marguerite Bennett, Garth Ennis, Cullen Bunn, Tim Seeley, our buddies Phil Hester and Ryan Kelly, Ryan Parrott. Just a lot of great stuff, and new books are on the way for this year in 2019, along with their already established books like Animosity and Jimmy's Bastards and A Walk Through Hell, and new books like Dark Ark and Baby Teeth as well. But be sure to keep listening to Word Balloon, because we're going to be checking in throughout the weeks to more Aftershock creators and talk about their books right here. But you don't have to wait. You can go to their website, AftershockComics.com, check out full story descriptions, preview pages, and the diamond codes on these books to order through your local shop. Again, AftershockComics.com. Don't use the word plural. Thanks again for listening today to Word Balloon. We close out February with this new show with Karl Kesel, but more great stuff coming in March. Really excited about the lineup of creators that are on the list. Some old favorites and recurring friends coming back, and of course some new people as well. Always a pleasure to share these great conversations with you right here at wordballoon.com. If you have questions or comments about the show, you can reach me via email, john@wordballoon.com. You can follow me on Twitter @JohnWordBalloon, and go to my Facebook page, my name, John Suntress, and of course the Word Balloon Network. Until next time, thanks for listening. Word Balloon is a copyright feature of Shaky Productions, copyright 2019.